Jury selection has begun in the federal trial of 3 former Minneapolis police officers connected to George Floyd's death. The judge of the case dismissed several people who said they could not be impartial. J. Alexander King, Thomas Lane, and Tu Tao are all accused of violating Floyd's constitutional rights. The men witnessed former police officer Derek Chauvin pin his knee on Floyd's neck before he died during an arrest in 2020. Prosecutors say the former officers failed to intervene when Floyd could no longer breathe. A Minnesota jury convicted Chauvin of murder and manslaughter last year. Defense attorneys of the former officers say the men will stand state trial in June after the federal case. Legal experts say the federal trial will be more complicated than the state's because prosecutors will have the difficult task of proving the officers willfully violated Floyd's constitutional rights. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor, Jessica Levinson. Hi, Jessica. Great to see you. So why are these 3 officers being tried together, unlike Derek Chauvin, who faced federal charges by himself?
It's a great question because what he did and what he's alleged to do is substantively different from what these 3 officers are alleged to do. As you laid out perfectly in the introduction here, they're in some ways charged with what they failed to do. So Chauvin was actually the perpetrator. We know now he was the murderer in this case, but they're charged with failure to act, failure to protect. 2 main charges in this case. One, as you talked about, the unreasonable seizure, that they deprived him of his liberty without due process of the law while they were acting as government agents. The other, in this case, that they failed to provide him with medical assistance, that they deliberately ignored the fact that he needed medical assistance. But what they're being charged with doing and not doing is qualitatively different. They were basically the kind of bystanders who, by their failures, allowed this to happen. That's different from what Chauvin was charged with and what he pled guilty to later.
And so what sort of penalties do charges related to failure to act carry? What could happen if these 3 men are found guilty?
So it is possible, given these federal charges, that they could face up to life in prison. But if you look at the sentencing guidelines, it is very unlikely that that is, in fact, what would happen. Of course, at this point, what we need to do is wait until this actually goes to trial, see if they're found guilty on either of these counts, and then look to the sentencing memos where the prosecutor will come forward and say, if there is a conviction, here are aggravating factors. The defense would say, here are mitigating factors. And I think the takeaway here is they would be looking at a lot less than life in prison. And federal judges have an enormous amount of discretion as to what a lot less looks like.
Right. I'm curious, though, as agents of the state, do penalties involving failure to act carry much higher consequences? I mean, can the average citizen be tried for failing to act, for instance?
So, yes, they can, but it's completely different. And I think that you're right to pinpoint that, which is that these charges fundamentally hinge on the idea that they had duties based on the fact that they were acting under color of state law, that they were acting as government agents, that they had their uniforms on, they were police officers. They were not people who were walking down the sidewalk and, for instance, videotaping or, in fact, screaming, get off of him, stop doing this. And therefore, the statutory violation comes from a very different place. And as you point to, there's a different level of culpability and potentially punishment as a result.
Of course, there will be a state trial that will follow the federal trial. Will the outcome of one affect the other?
Right. So this federal trial asks different questions than the state trial that they're facing shortly. So the federal trial, as we talked about, asks questions about depriving Floyd of his civil rights, about failing to provide medical assistance. The state case is in a way more straightforward. It's about aiding and abetting the murder. And those come from alleged violations of the state criminal code. And will it affect? It affects in the sense that all the evidence in this case really is the same. We already have seen much of the evidence that's going to come forward in this federal case against the 3 officers, and that will likely come forward in the state case. Does it mean that if they're found guilty on the federal charges, they're automatically found guilty on the state charges? No. Different codes, a federal code versus a state code, and different charges based on different actions, but again, all stemming from those few moments.
All right. Well, Jessica Levinson, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your legal expertise.
Thank you.